Hello students, good morning. I think you all enjoyed the season of festivals and now it is a time to come back with high energy and dedication towards your learning, and this is our online learning for economics. Before starting my new lecture, I would like to revise all those topics which I covered in my last video. And first of all, I would like to explain central problems. Central problem in any economy, all those problems arise because of scarcity of resources, alternative use of resources and unlimited wants. Because we want to fulfill our unlimited wants within the limited resources given by nature. But all those resources can be used in several uses. It means they are having alternative uses. So that to fulfill unlimited wants and how to use the limited resources in what manner so that we can utilize them fully or we can maximize satisfied our wants. That is the big problem. And central problems I already explained with the help of a flow chart that all those central problems are categorized in three categories. First category is allocation of resources. Second problem is distribution of resources, and third problem is growth of resources. Allocation of resources problem is also categorized in three type of problems: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. What to problem is concerned with selection of type and quantity of the production of goods and services. As I told you that जो resources हैं they can be used in many areas. So हमें select करना है कि हमें अपने limited and scarce resources को किन जगहों पर यूज करना है, which is our priority. We have to use our resources to those areas which are given preference, higher preference. तो जिनको ज़्यादा preference दी जाएगी वहाँ पर वही resources ज़्यादा use किए जाएंगे. We have to select use in what type of uses we have to use our resources. हमें कहाँ पर अपने resource use करने हैं. तो ये problem, this problem is concerned with what to produce. क्या produce करना है and उसमें हमें resources को किस तरह से allocate करना है. Then second problem, that is how to produce. This problem is concerned with the selection of technique, the selection of technology which can be used for the production of any goods and services. There are two type of techniques: labor intensive technique and capital intensive technique. Labor intensive technique, it is fully based on availability of labor. If in any economy labor supply is greater and the wages are less, in that case we can use labor intensive technique. This technique is using more labors, so that this is called employment generating technique. In this type of technique, there is low efficiency of production. Production efficiency, production's quality, it is not very much good. And the technique, this technique is also time consuming. So there are so many drawbacks also there. Drawbacks, that is time consuming, other than is less quality and low production and less efficiency. All these are the drawbacks, and the only we can say that positive impact or positive effect of this technique, that is this technique is employment generating technique, and by using this technique we can generate more and more employment in the economy. Capital intensive technique, just opposite of labor intensive. In this technique less laborers are to be used. Instead of labor, this technique is focused on capital, on new machineries, on new technology. So this technique is less employment generating, or with the help of this technique we can't generate more and more employment. The rate of employment generation remains less in this technique. But instead of this drawback, this technique is having so many positive effects, like there is higher efficiency. The efficiency of product, efficiency of inputs, it remains higher. Production quantity and quality, both, it is also remains higher. And this technique is called less time consuming. This is a time saving. In a limited time we can produce more quantity by using this technique. Our next topic is how to produce प्रॉब्लम कि हाउ टू प्रोड्यूस. अगर हम इसमें लेबर इंटेंसिव और टेक्निकल कैपिटल इंटेंसिव, इन दोनों ही टेक्निक में से किसी पर्टिकुलर टाइप ऑफ इकोनॉमी के अंदर हमें कौन सा टेक्निक को यूज करना है, कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज करना है. Labor intensive, capital intensive, I have explained the difference between both these techniques. Now, what is the problem related with? This problem is related with the technique and the selection of technique, and the selection has to be done by producers. अब producer को कैसे decide करना है कि वो कौन सा technique use करेगा? So, first of all, we should know that what is producer's behavior. Producer's behavior is focused on maximization on profit, and the producer can maximize his profit by lowering or by minimizing the cost of production. So all that the selection of technique, जो भी selection किया जाएगा technique का, it should be decided by keeping the mind in the producer that he has to maximize his profit and he has to minimize his cost. Because profit can be maximized by lowering the cost only in this case, or by increasing the sales. All these things we will discuss later. And here we have to discuss the selection of technique. What technique should be adopted to produce by a producer to maximize his profit? For example, if the decision has to be taken by industries, so there are so many type of industries: LSI, SSI, cottage industries. LSI means large scale industry, SSI means small scale industries, and cottage industries. All these industries are having their different investment level. Large scale industries are investing a lot of amount, a lot of investment is there, and small scale and cottage industries are having less investment, up to 5 crores and more than 5 crores is in large scale industries. तो जहाँ पर investment scale ज़्यादा होता है वहाँ पर modern technology और modern machineries के through production किया जाएगा, and obviously this technique will adopt capital intensive technique. Or small scale industries, they can be adopt labor intensive or capital intensive, it depends on the conditions. And cottage industries, most of cottage industries are focused or are based on labor intensive techniques. ये तो था कि डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ इंडस्ट्रीज किस तरह से डिसाइड करेंगे कि उनको कौन सी टेक्निक का सिलेक्शन करना है. अब अगर प्रोडक्ट की बेस पर हम डिसाइड करें कि किस तरह के प्रोडक्ट की डिमांड है, इफ in the economy there is a high demand of machine made goods, in that case the economy will decide to adopt capital intensive. And if in the economy there is a higher demand of handicraft items, so to produce handicraft items, economy will select the labor intensive technique. The manpower will be used by the economy to produce handicraft items. Every method which has to be selected by the economy has got its advantages and disadvantages. There are pros and cons for each and every method. The quality, first of all, we should focus on the mechanism or mechanization. Sorry for the interruption. First, I would like to explain that every economy has to decide the selection of technique, and the selection of technique will be based on few factors. Few factors are there on which economy has to decide the type of selection. These things should be kept in the mind. First one, availability of labor and capital. If labor is not available sufficiently, or there is a scarcity of labor supply, so in that case how can an economy be adopted? How can that type of technique will be adopted in the economy? Labor intensive technique can't be used if labor supply is lesser. But if labor supply is greater, in that case labor intensive technique can be easily used, or it can be adopted. And vice versa, if the capital is available at cheaper cost or cheaper than laborers, in that case the economy will adopt capital intensive technique. It means the most important thing is availability of labor or capital. Second term, scale of production. If economy has to produce the production on a large scale, which is not possible with the help of labor intensive technique, in that case the economy or the producer will select capital intensive technique to increase the production in a limited time or in a given time. Other thing, that is cost of labor and capital. The cost of labor, that is called wages, and cost of capital, that is interest. If wages are lesser and laborers are cheaper instead of capital, so जो भी चीज cheaper होगा, जो आपको costing कम देगा, that type of technique will be chosen. Okay, so here in case wages are lesser or wages are cheaper than the interest or the cost of capital, in that case labor intensive technique will be used. Or vice versa, if the interest rates are very less and the cost of capital to avail or to cost of capital is lesser, so the capital intensive technique will be used in the economy. Okay, one more time I will tell you that mechanization or capital intensive technique, if that technique is to be used, in that case the quantity of production can be increased, the quality of production is also improved. As it requires less number of workers, it results in unemployment. So if the economy is using capital intensive technique, in that case the economy is unable to generate more and more employment, or in that case there remain unemployment in the economy. While using handicraft, it will reduce the rate of unemployment, as it is using more or large number of laborers, but the quality and quantity of production remains lower. The economy has to decide about the technique of production on the basis of 3 points. First, availability, second, cost and cost of labor and capital, and third is scale of production. So this is all about the technique of how to produce. The selection of technique for the production, and the problem, that is how to produce.